Howdy. So what we're going to do today is just bottle some kombucha. You can see these are 11-ounce containers. The reason I don't use 16-ounce containers like you would get if you were in the store is because I'm sensitive to caffeine. And I like fizz. And so once I open it, I want it to stay fizzy long enough for me to drink it. It generally won't do that as much if you're going to drink it little bits at a time, if it's in a 16-ounce container. So I've found that these Perrier bottles work really well. They also work well because they're open technically, and so they're not going to give you a hard seal. So you're going to have very little risk of exploding these if you overfizz them. And in another video, you've seen me overfizz them and they did not explode. So that's always a win. You've got just a little bit of space in there as insurance. So what we're going to do here, I've just added some grapefruit peel, any kind of organic grapefruit you're using or any kind of citrus that you like is good for this. I dry all of mine in my dehydrator. You can see I have some in process right now. Here's a lemon peel. Here's some grapefruit peel. And since it's winter and I'm also using the dehydrator as a way to create kind of a warm spot on my counter so that the kombucha and the water kefir can continue to ferment, it's very handy. You also do the pith. So the way that I eat my grapefruit is that I usually section it, but I don't eat the pith when I'm eating it by hand. So I peel that off, but I save it, and it will grind up really, really nicely in the food processor. You can see it's actually a really vibrant, almost it's really an orange once it's sat around for just a little while. But you want to dehydrate that real good. And just, you smash it up in the food processor and then you put it in here. It does have some chunks, so those don't go in real great in here, but they'll funnel themselves, it'll self-select the powder going into this. And the reason I put grapefruit powder in, number one, the pith and the, once you do this one time, you'll smell it. It's a very vibrant smell, even once it's dehydrated, which is uncommon among dehydrated things. But there's so much vitamin C in there. There's so much antioxidant activity, and this is a whole food, so it's not grabbing one thing and then trying to make it work in your body. But it also adds a complexity into the kombucha that I just really, really like. It's very good for the liver. And if your body doesn't need that, it'll say, oh, I don't really like that. But, try it in one of your bottles and see what you think. I am finding that I want it in all of my kombucha, no matter what flavor. And sometimes I just do that powder and some honey because I like the fizzies. And so, do a raw honey so that it can have all of its complexities in it. But today I'm going to do some nectarine. This is raw nectarine pureed up. It looks dark because it does oxidize pretty quickly, but I've had it in the freezer for a while. For a few months, and at one point, I think I left it out too long, or our grid has gone down a couple of times, and so it's been through a little bit. But it still works really well. I made some kombucha in some of these recently, and just put a couple of big chunks of the nectarine in there, and it was out of this world, like ridiculous good. So. It has kind of some peach notes, as you would think, but it just is really beautiful. Like, I don't know why they're not making nectarine or peach at the store. So, but you can see I have a lot of it. I am going to use a lot of it. I'm going to give it a quick taste. Yeah, it's a little bit sweet, but not a lot sweet. So it's not going to be enough to make a sweet kombucha. So I'll add some sweetener as well. With this, I don't want a heavy deep sweetener with a lot of molasses in it. So I'm not going to use molasses. I'm not going to use a turbinado sugar, probably. I'm going to use a lighter one. I think I'm going to use honey in this case, which is not the cheapest choice, but then agave isn't cheap either. So I'm going to put some honey in there. It's a little bit gloppy. It's got to go through here. So, a raw cream honey is going to take a minute. What I'm also going to do here, though, is I'm going to look through these. I use these to ferment too. These have, you can see some old pear rinds that I did from my homemade pear stuff. And I'm going to put those in here too and see because if they still have yeasts in them that they would like to share, I would love for them to share them. So I'm going to see if there's anything small. That's the old nectarine. I think I should get rid of that. It's not quite in the mood anymore. Okay, I'll get rid of those. But if I hadn't left that out so many days, I could actually just put a little more kombucha in it and it would keep going. I haven't done nectarine before, but I just kind of slacked off on that. This one has been sealed, so it probably still has some good stuff going on in it. Yep, sure does. So it's got some raspberries, some raisins, and some pear. So I'll throw some in there too. And then I can throw some in there. I'm going to put, where's my little teaspoon? I'm finding that about a half teaspoon is what I like. A quarter teaspoon is just not quite enough for me in the grapefruit powder department. I like about that much. This isn't quite, it's not quite full. It looks heaping, but it's really not because there's some non-full areas too here. I'm going to put a little bit in my 8 ounces too. And I also have one of these. So again, there's some raisins, but you can tell that your raisins, some people say that putting raisins in is great because it's got some wild yeast on it. I'm not finding that to be true. And it does make sense that it wouldn't be true because although it has all the concentrated sugars that you want to get to, what it doesn't have is, the yeast only survives in a certain temperature range, and raisins are cooked. You'll know if you eat a raw raisin because it's a very different experience. It's a much brighter flavor than a raisin that you get at the store. And even organic golden raisins, which are what I'm using, they're cooked. So it just is what it is. The yeast on that is not alive. If it were, my kombucha would be tasting really badass. So I know that that's not there. What is there, I'll show you. If you've seen my other videos about pears, you know what this is. This is a pear core that I dehydrate and then I put in here sometimes I put them raw. I can smell it and smell that like everything still smells good. There's no moldies going on. And that does make sense because kombucha actually eats mold. You'll see a lot of videos where people are like, oh my gosh, if it gets moldy, you got to throw the whole batch out. I'm not finding that to be true where I am. Can't say what's going to be true where you are, but if there's a little bit of mold, I do kind of tend to skim it off. But one time I didn't, and I just thought, well, let's see if that kombucha is going to eat it, because that's partly why I'm drinking this stuff, to get rid of mold and viruses and bacteria in my body that doesn't need to be there, and fungus and all the things. And so I find that it just eats it all up and keeps going. So, don't let it get overrun. You're not trying to be a hero, but that's what I'm finding. You may find something different in your climate or for your body, and you should do that. So here we go. I'm going to put these over here. I just finished off my cabbage, so you see my dead cabbage here. It's actually not dead. It's just eaten. If I planted it, it would still do stuff, which I may still do. Okay, so here's my nectarine. Keep in mind, this is not super sweet. So we've got to add some sugar in order for these kids to still be eating and not get too hungry. Here's one more. You can smell, you can hear that still doing stuff. This actually does have a nectarine in it, but it's been closed, and you heard that little kind of gas come out. That has actually been pretty well protected and not getting the moldies from being open from the air. So I'm actually going to use this again. And, the worst thing that can happen is it won't be good and I'll have to throw it out. It's not a big deal. I have plenty of kombucha. So let's see what we've got today. See what's going on in here. Okay, so this is a strong, good kombucha. This is actually already doing some of its own fizzing. So we're going to use that. And we're also going to get, a lot of these are making some pretty big scobies at this point. We're going to taste some of these because as you know, if you have experienced my other videos, part of what we do here is manage the whole problem of microclimate changing in temperature. And what that ends up meaning is, hello, little Scubby, how are we doing? And you notice I have a lid on these too. Most videos tell you don't put a lid on. It's got to stay, you know, very, very busy with the oxygen. Well, I just don't find that it is a big damn deal. I'm gonna just taste this. And what I just did is I'm just checking for flavor a little bit and to see is it at the point where it's legit kombucha, but also how vinegary is it? Usually mine is kind of vinegary to be honest, because it's been here a long time at this point. I mean, I made this like 3 months ago. However, this is a newer part of the batch. So it's not, it does taste real sour, but that's because it's hibiscus flavor and hibiscus is just sour. So I'm going to try this smaller one. And again, I know, you know, people are all about like, don't double dip and taste it and all that. And, you know, if I were doing this for other people, I wouldn't, but I just don't find that it's a big deal. This tastes pretty good too. This is, I think, again, part of this batch. You can see it's a really deep, it's a rose color. It probably looks more brown from where you're sitting, but it's got some rose to it, which is fun too. Especially when you know it's the hibiscus. And then I'll show you this big gargantuan creature over here. I do want to make sure that I'm not just using this newer one, but this you can see is a real different color, right? And this is a gunpowder green. I don't love it, to be honest, but you can see it makes mad crazy SCOBY. Like this is ridiculous, humongous SCOBY. It's nearly an inch thick. It's like really stupid how big it is. I'll have to make some food out of it. I'm going to taste this. Again, I don't love this. I find it to be kind of tannic, kind of strong. It has a very strong yang energy to me. It tastes very male. I don't know how else to put it. So I don't love it, but I have it. And so what we're going to do is we'll mix it up with the hibiscus, which is a much more balanced flavor. But it's a good level for the kombucha acidity. And so it'll make a good kombucha, but it's just the flavor. I just don't love that particular flavor. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit into here because I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times 11-ish ounces, because I have 11 ounces times 6 bottles. So that's right at 2 quarts. This is a 2-quart jar. So I'm going to add, probably up to here. And then we'll also be putting the nectarine mixture and the honey in here. And so, it won't be a full 11 ounces. So, pardon me while I do some pouring here. Okay, here we go. And I don't really want to add more than about a cup or so because that gunpowder jasmine tea is just so freaking strong. It's just, I don't know. It's not that it's strong, it's just that I don't like it very much. Okay, but that's better. This works like this, just that little bit. It's about a cup and a half of that. So, but what I want to do too is I'm going to go ahead and put my honey in here. Because if I put the honey in and then put this through, it'll wash the rest of the honey down there. So let's do that. Okay, and this that I've got here, it happens to be a blueberry honey. That's not important. In fact, let me use some of my maybe other honey. Yeah, I think I'll use this if it'll come out. I'll do part and part. The blueberry honey is more expensive, but I can't seem to get the people to like write me back and send me what I asked for. So I think I'll add a little water. If you add a little water, this will loosen up, which will be helpful. What I do with my cream honey so that I don't lose a single drop of it, as you can see, it crystallizes. Raw honey tends to be either cream or crystal, is I generally fill it with water, and then I always have it in a liquefied form, which is awesome because I'm usually putting it into sorbet or something where I need it to be liquid, you know. So we're going to just shake this up, see if I can get it. You don't want to do this with cold water because it will brace. It will like kind of do this on you, the honey will. It doesn't like it when you do that. Okay, shake, 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 shake. Okay, you know how to shake stuff. You don't need to watch me do this, but anyway, here we go. So, but I got most of it. You can see there's not very much of it that's even down at the bottom now. So I've got access to all that. There's not going to be any waste in my honey situation. So this won't do quite all 6, right? But what we're going to do, my my current tablespoon I've been using for, did it just smell? Yeah, it smells neutral. I've been using for apple cider vinegar in my water, which apparently my organs just absolutely love. So I do that now. Okay, I'm doing 1 tablespoon in there, 2 tablespoons in there. And do I want more? Yeah, I think I'm going to do 1 more. 3 tablespoons in there. If I had more, I might do 4. Do this next one. 1. I don't usually measure, but I'm trying this today. Okay, that's 2 of them. That's going to be pretty sweet. I might have done it too much. 1. Oh, no, that's not true because this has water in it. Okay, 1, 2. And a little bit more water to just kind of loosen up that last bit. I won't use that today, but that'll give it some time to make its way. Yeah, it's gonna need some time, but it's fine. Okay, so now we can just grab a tablespoon here. We're going to throw this in. So we'll do, since that had water in it and this will not, we're going to do about 1 tablespoon of this. In fact, what I'm going to do, this is going to work a lot better if I do it this way. We're going to make that slurry again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. I need it for 4 jars. So we're going to do 4 tablespoons here. It's hard to get out of here. Very sticky. Very sticky. Okay. Made one real big, so make one a little smaller. And do 1 more here. 1 more big one. For good measure. Okay. So we've got this, and we're going to do some water in here. Get it loosened up. And just when you're doing this, you'll make sure you're using a relatively new, not rusted out lid, so you're not flinging honey water all over the place with a leaky lid. I'm just going to do this for a bit. Or not. Okay, it's totally not working. Never mind. See, it's all right. We'll just do it the other way. Not a big deal. Okay, so I'm gonna do about this much. My funnel is pretty narrow there. So I'm gonna move that out of the way here and just do it myself and just get a little messy and it'll be all right. Okay. Get that in there. Get that in there. When people use these bottles that have the very small tops to them, it's sort of, you know, it does occur to me that seems stupid. But it does hold the carbonation a little better than these do. It is a real thing. So I'm kind of okay with it, only because I didn't buy these. I probably wouldn't buy them. I know a lot of people use the ones with the gaskets on them and so forth. I do not really do that at this stage. And I don't really like that you have to like flip top those. Those are not really like super arthritis friendly. So there's that. Okay, so we're going to do this one. Just get it all in there. And the reason I like honey also, honey ferments nicely itself. You know, you can make mead with honey or just by sitting honey around with some water. It'll alcoholize, and it is a really nice drink. I don't drink anymore because my my various neurological debilities don't want any extra help, and so I don't have any alcohol in my diet. But there's some little bits, and what I'm finding is as I'm doing this kombucha thing, in some ways it gives me a little space to play in that way. And I have not had any bad reaction to the residual alcohol myself, the way that I've made it so far. So, so far so good. I'm going to just do some of this to get it all in there. You can tell that it's kind of cold outside because it's being pretty gloopy. Pretty gloopy. Okay. I'm getting real sticky here. Yeah, definitely recommend liquefying this first if you can. But what I've also found is it is worth making sure you've got enough sugar in there, and not too much, but like you really do want to have enough sugar in there, because if you don't get the fizz you want. And then, you know, if you had kombucha that was a little fresher than mine, you might not have an issue of sourness, but my kombucha is just always kind of old by the time I even do the second ferment, and so it's kind of already pretty vinegary. So you don't want to get that too sour on yourself. Okay, so I'm going to go with that for right now. I'll do these little kids separately. I'm just getting too sticky. And yeah, I'm going to rinse my hands. Okay, so now we've got our mix, and I'm going to, where's my funnel? Here we go. I'm going to put, and I am going to go ahead and measure this just a little bit because there's just so many things we're doing today. I'm going to put some of this Nectarine. 1, 2, I'm going to do 3 tablespoons of this Nectarine puree. And all I did was I took it out of the freezer and then I just dumped it in the blender and I just left it. And I went about my business and then came back later in the day. I had to take my car way over yonder to get a little minor work done. And so it took me a few hours. I probably wouldn't leave it that long if I had been home, because it did oxidize a little bit, but I think it's going to be fine. You really do learn what flavors get amplified, when you're doing those ferments and the Nectarine amplification of the flavors, which is really super awesome. And I'm not like a super huge Nectarine fan. And so the fact that I loved it so much really tells you more about what kombucha has the power to do than like anything else. Okay, it's getting a little bit gloopy, so I'm gonna help it along here. This is also the first time that I'm doing a fruit puree, because I see a lot of people doing that and I just hadn't gotten around to doing it that way yet. But I do think it's going to be better because I think there's more access to the fruit sugar if there's more kind of surface area access. And that means a fizzier product, which is always fun. This is getting a little floppy. Hang on. I'll just rinse it. Yeah. And so then, except that I don't remember where I was now. Okay, we're on this one. And so this is the first time I'm going to be trying it this way, even though I really feel like I already put it in there. Okay. It's about 3. You can tell it's getting kind of cooler because this is not going in too easy. How about that? Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of kombucha in there to kind of help it along. There we go. Yeah, it's going in. Okay, kids. We're going to do this one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, yeah, it's definitely kind of cooled out now. It's having some trouble. That nectarine is getting less loose. I'm going to just help this go through here. It's going to go right on down in a second. But since I like to keep using these bottles, you know, the other thing is I don't want to commit to anything that's not going to come out of the bottle or that I can't reuse. But what I'm really finding is that it's not that big a deal because although I won't put big pieces in there because I want to be able to get it out at some point if I want to. I also find that I really like to just reuse all the bits because they're already kind of pickled. And so it's really not a big deal to keep using them. And they're already kind of bacterialized from being kombucha'd. So it's actually not a super huge deal. Because I did wonder about that when I was starting. Okay. That's looking good. We got one more here. Oh, wait. Did I already do that one? Oh, I already did that one. Okay. I did that one. That's why I thought I had done 3 because I had, but it was a different 3 than I was thinking. Okay. So those are ready. This one we'll just do for good measure because it's sitting here. And I'm going to do this, get some honey for it. Oh man, yeah, it's definitely getting colder. Having a hard time getting it in there. Okay, I'm gonna put that honey in, which is very gloopy. I hope I didn't mess up putting it in that way. We'll see. We're going to go ahead and put all that in there. It's right about 3. Yep. 3 tablespoons in there. What I don't like to do, I did make some kombucha early on with pineapple. That did not go well. I am going to try it with an organic fresh pineapple rather than an organic frozen pineapple next, just to see how that works. It may work better because in the frozen, all those water-soluble vitamins are dead because they're temperature sensitive. So you don't get any of that. And what that also means is you don't get the zing. You don't get that nice, like tart, fun acid, that citric acid, which is boring when you don't have it. So, but it also just made a really sour kombucha, and I didn't like that. More sour than awesome. But I'm going to try it with the fresh, but along with it, because I really like that yeast, I like that natural yeast on the fruit, I'm going to put some of the skin on it. You can, a lot of people make tepache, which is a pineapple fermented drink, but usually they're cooking it to some degree. I'm not going to cook it, but I am going to make some real tiny little pieces of the pineapple skin. I'm going to put that in the kombucha, and I think it'll probably be a lot better than that frozen pineapple that I've been using. So here we go. You can see, well, you can't see, I'm not going to show it to you because the other time when I did that, I poured things on my computer, which was incredibly silly. But what I am going to do is see if I can just keep these things going in here. I may have sealed it up with that honey. It's going through a little bit. Here we go. And the temperature in here right now is 65. I've got my, just get a little like super cheap at the store, like the, lamest little thermometer you can get, fridge thermometer. Works fine. I bought 4 of them like last year at this time, like right at Thanksgiving when like all the baking stuff is cheap and it was just at the end of the aisle and it was cheap. So I bought several to just make sure all my freezers are working, because I have this one fridge that was here when I got here that I'm really thankful to have an extra fridge, but it's really sketchy in terms of temperature. It can like freeze stuff when you don't mean to and stuff. So I now keep that in there, and it's made life incredibly easy, and I don't waste anything anymore. It feels way better, and now I wonder why I haven't always done that. Okay, that's not totally working, so we're gonna just the other solution. It's going through almost, but just it's having a little bit of a hard time because of the honey kind of plugged it up, because I put it in first, which was the opposite of what you should do. Or what I should have done, for that matter. Okay, we're getting there now, though. It's going to get in there. Okay, now I don't know what's plugging it up. The air vacuum is what was covering it up. Plugging it up. There we go. Okay. Thank God we're done with that. Okay. Let me rinse this. Okay, now we're really doing it. Except I do still need this. Okay, so we're putting in, again, this is a mixture of hibiscus and the gunpowder jasmine green tea. I'm going to just pour it in kind of slow here. I put it, since I'm on the Perrier bottles, I put it up to the top of here. And believe it or not, this is actually kind of standard in the food bev industry. If you're filling something, you do have a mark at which you stop, and it's usually by where you put in the label. They do this for a reason. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to give it just a little bit of space. It doesn't need a lot of space, because if you give it too much space, then the carbon dioxide has too much place to play. That was a little too high. I'll drink a little bit of that to get that down. I need that about ½ an inch down. So I'm going to do this again. You want to be careful not to plug it up here. You want to try to pour it on the side so it's got some space for the air to come out if you can. Okay, that's about good. Teeny tiny bit more. Tiny. There we go. Okay, that was a little better. I know it's not really where I want it. I'm going to even those out is what I'll do. Okay. And what we've really got in here, we've got a few ounces of fruit. And so all I'm really doing is about 8 ounces of kombucha in here, which will be good for me because my body just is not all about the caffeine. Okay. Because what you can see between the honey and the nectarine, you know, three tablespoons of each kind of thing of the honey water and the nectarine, and 2 tablespoons equals an ounce. So it's 3 ounces of liquid without even getting into the kombucha. This one I did exactly right. Actually, that one's looking really good here. See how fancy I am. We're going to do this one. You can see I'm just about out of juice here, so to speak. I think what I'm going to do is I don't want to put all that sediment in there, so I'm going to use one of my, I've shown you this before, my strainer. I don't have the goodness that I can keep. Put in the next batch. Okay, that's looking good. Looking good. Again, I'd like to go just a little bit higher, but it's so easy to go over at this point that it gets a little tricky. Okay, now this one, I'm going to do this. If it were summer, I'd be more careful about these kind of drips and drabs that are going into my box, but it's like fruit flies and stuff. But since it's so cold, I'm kind of less worried about it suddenly. Okay, that's all that's going to go in there. But you can see, like, I've still got some sediment. This is some SCOBY and some fruit yeast. I'm just going to leave all that in there. I don't mind that being in there. It doesn't hurt anything. But I do still need to fill this up. And I need to fill this one up. So we're going to refill this. You can see this is the hibiscus one, more of the hibiscus one. And I think what we decided we liked was about this much hibiscus and about this much of the gunpowder tea. Since we don't really like the gunpowder tea, like pretty much all around. Makes sense since it's gunpowder. I mean, how much could you really like it? Okay, so then we're going to get, I'll just put this back in here. It's fine. There we go. And we really don't lose any of it. I would have thought we would, but we really don't. These strainers are really good at getting it all out of there. Okay. So that's the good news that I can offer. Okay. This is already kind of stirred. Like, I don't know. People say you need to stir this stuff really carefully. But, you know, most of the people who are making kombucha are not professional chefs, and they kind of think you got to fuss over everything. And, you know, when you're one with the food and you just get it, you don't really need to fuss over stuff. Okay. Okay, that's perfect. And then I'm going to see if I can hit the edge that I want to hit here just a teeny tiny bit. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, this one I need to fix this up here. Okay, that's good. And then you've got a perfect one there. And then, yeah, that one's looking good too. And so now we're going to do this one. We'll be able to see that one all the way up. There we go. Okay, it's kind of glugging in there, so I got to give it a second. Okay. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about this batch. I feel good about it. I think these flavors are going to go nice together. Now I'm just going to clean this real quick. This is not a necessary step, but because I got real gloppy on the top and I really like my fizz, I'm going to give it a good seal if I can. Yeah, I don't always do this, but I'm not always as messy as I was today either. So there's that. Okay. And that honey, it's cool enough outside where that honey is really coming at you. I don't usually use paper towels either, incidentally. This was actually covering some of my water kefir the other day when I thought I'd try and see if it was important that it be covered. It wasn't. Yeah, my body is not, it just doesn't love the smell of that gunpowder tea. And what that means is that my body doesn't need that particular thing, really. Okay, so we're just going to put these on here. Nothing fancy. You do want to make sure that, like, I have some kombucha bottles that have a similar lid. Don't mix them up though, because they really don't fit 100%, and you won't get the fizz that you're looking for if you do it that way. I do drink the live kombucha from Austin sometimes. It's a really nice kombucha, but I have made the mistake. It's not a mistake if you like your stuff flat, but I just don't. So I found that out by doing it that way. You know, if you do it away and you don't like it, then you know not to do it the next time. Okay, so you can see this is right at 64 right now is what that says. I'm going to turn this on. Mine starts at 105 temperature. It's not 105 out here, but I am going to keep an eye on it because it could get up to 80. That's partly why I keep it in the box. It'll insulate it just a little bit so that if it gets above that 80 or 85 mark, which it probably won't do, but if it were to get to a 90, then these become not so good. Not so good. So I'm going to put these in here. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and wipe them off a little bit oftentimes I'll rinse these. I'm not rinsing them this time because again, it's officially kind of winter as of today. So I just don't think the flies are going to come after it too much. A lot of people also will like give this a little stir like this. That's fine too. I don't know that it really makes any difference because once that gets busy in there, it's going to make it sweat. Maybe it would be true if at my house you could be done with this in the 1 to 4 days that a lot of people's temperatures at their houses do. If you're done with a second ferment in 1 to 4 days, then yeah, you probably want to shake this up a little bit, make sure that all the honey is getting acclimated and all dissolved. But my fermentations never go that fast, and so I just don't think that's going to be an issue here. But now I'm kind of curious. I kind of want to get it going now that I'm talking about it. Yeah, see, that one's already in there, all fully liquefied. So if it's all fully liquefied, like, it's just not going to be an issue. You're just trying to get it to a liquefaction point just to make sure that all the micro critters can eat. That's all you're trying to do here. And essentially this will actually be a better size of kombucha for me to drink, because even the 11 ounce is something I kind of have to nurse. It's not always an amount that my body should really be drinking caffeine wise, but this will be better. So that's what we have today. A hibiscus kombucha that I made separately from the gunpowder tea, but you can see that all the teas are different, and that's okay. I have another tea over by the window that has just been sitting there basically sealed and it's still fine. I taste it from time to time. There's no botulism issue. There's no problem with it. It's got a good SCOBY top on it, and it's a pickled tea at this point, right? So it can be used whenever I'm ready. I made it with regular tea and kind of steamed roasted squash skin, and it just is a beautiful, humongous kind of flavor background. It's really lovely. So I didn't use it here because the nectarines wouldn't go with that quite the way that I want to. I don't want it to be a totally orange flavor, if you will. But Thanksgiving is coming, and I might balance that deep, rich kind of squash flavor with that grapefruit and with some other fruits, maybe some pears. I bought some pears recently, so it would be a good way to use those. So we'll see how it goes. Hope that was helpful.